Howdy. Thanks for having me today. I'm here to talk about the conflict between Cricket Australia and the Australian Cricketers Association following the ball tampering scandal in 2018. And I also want to talk about how that conflict can be managed by the two organizations in a way that protects integrity and fairness. It's not just about cheating. It's about power and accountability, trust, and punishment that's proportional to the issue itself. So it's important to understand what the conflict was. So from Cricket Australia's perspective, it's a primarily values-based and reputational conflict. The ball tampering scandal caused major damage to the image publicly of Australian cricket, both internationally and domestically. Cricket Australia felt intense pressure from sponsors, fans, media to respond in a decisive manner to this problem. From a conflict theory perspective, this reflects a norms and ethics conflict. Cricket Australia saw strong sanctions as necessary to reassert the spirit of the game, quote unquote, restore trust and send a clear message about acceptable behavior. Their actions needed to be swift and severe punishment in order to gain legitimacy. At least that's how they saw it. From the Australian Cricketers Association's perspective, the conflict looks a lot different. For the ACA, this is a procedural justice and power imbalance conflict. They didn't defend the behavior itself. They challenged the fairness, consistency, and proportionality of the sanctions. The ACA viewed Cricket Australia's penalties as disproportionate and unprecedented, especially when compared to ICC sanctions and previous cases. This created a relationship conflict where players feel they are being used to protect the organization's image rather than being treated fairly as employees. So you kind of see the two sides. One side thought that the punishment was fair in a way that nipped it in the bud, kind of, and the other side saw it as something that was a little harsh. So even with strong disagreement, Cricket Australia and the ACA actually share several important interests. First is they both want to protect the long-term reputation of Australia cricket. Without the trust of the public, the sport would lose, both fans, sponsors, credibility, all of the above. Secondly, they both care about the welfare of the players and the sustainability of the league. Cricket Australia needs elite players in order to succeed in the field or on the field, while the ACA protects players' careers, mental health, and professional futures. And then third, parties want clear and standard, consistent behavior and punishment. Or standards for behavior and punishment, things that are always going to be the same no matter what. So uncertainty damages the confidence of players and administrators, because if they don't know how an issue is going to be handled, they don't know how to approach issues if they don't know how they're supposed to be handled. So a lot of where this conflict escalated, similar to the FC Barcelona issue, was communication. And not just what decisions were made, but how they were communicated. So one key technique is interest-based communication. Instead of focusing on defending positions and harsh punishment versus unfair punishment, both sides need to articulate what they're trying to protect: trust, fairness, and the future of the game. Active listening is essential in any communication, but especially in this. The ACA needs to feel that concerns about proportionality and precedent are being genuinely heard and not dismissed as player self-interest. At the same time, Cricket Australia's reputational concerns must be acknowledged as legitimate. They want to be heard in saying that, our reputation matters, and we're concerned about the reputation, and that's why we decided to punish in this way, and we need to make sure that y'all understand that. Using a neutral facilitator or mediator would be a beneficial aspect of communication for both parties. It would help reduce emotion and power imbalance, allowing discussions to focus on process rather than blame. And lastly, communication needs to be measured and transparent, but in a way that doesn't escalate blame and or moral judgments, because those can make compromise a lot harder and they can damage emotions or reputations, relationships, that sort of thing. So the negotiation approach that I would recommend is integrative bargaining, a distributive approach where one side wins and the other loses would deepen mistrust and damage the working relationship between players and administrators. So you don't want one side to lose and one side to win, but instead you want both sides to come out with an agreement that they're comfortable with. It focuses on finding solutions. This could include reviewing sanction frameworks, aligning domestic punishments more closely with international standards, or developing clear disciplinary guidelines for future cases. Maybe we've already missed the opportunity on the one that we've currently had, but we can allow it to be a standardized process for the future. So we're not trying to excuse the wrongdoing that happened, but we're trying to make sure that punishment is a little more fair, consistent, or credible in the future, so that the game is strengthened rather than undermining the system. There are several barriers that could be managed or need to be managed in resolving this conflict. First is strong personalities. Second is power imbalance, just because Cricket Australia holds formal authority while the ACA represents players who may fear retaliation or career damage. And lastly is media pressure. All of these things can affect the case itself. So again, the real conflict is about how justice is applied. We need to focus on shared interests, using integrative negotiation and improving communication and procedural fairness. Cricket Australia and the ACA can rebuild trust and create a stronger governance framework moving forward. I hope that this helps. Thank you for your time.